Welcome into the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app, whether that's Android or Apple. You can find us on Spotify on both. You can also find us on the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio. Just download the Dash Radio app. Search for Nothing But Net. We're there every day from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. My new show is on OnsideRadio.com at 10 a.m. every day, where I cover more than the Miami Heat. And, of course, you can get all of our free sports content in South Florida. We do not have a paywall on 5reasonsports.com. Also, check out our great sponsors, including our friend Mark over at U-Brake Wheel Fix, which is a wheel repair and refinishing company located in North Miami with 15 years of experience, where you can get your bent or cracked wheels. You know what happens on the streets of South Florida. You can get those fixed there with fast turnaround times on most repairs. They even offer loaner wheels while they fix or refinish your wheels, so you can keep your car on the road without interruption. If your wheels are faded or peeling, U-Brake Wheel Fix offers complete refinishing back to factory standards. If you're just bored with the look of your wheels, U-Brake Wheel Fix offers over 5,000 different finishes to customize the look of your wheels. Don't spend money on new wheels when you can renew them at U-Brake Wheel Fix, where they offer a full line of custom wheels and tires for every vehicle application. They offer in-house repair and complete vehicle customization. So call U-Brake Wheel Fix today at 305-748-0112. That's 305-748-0112, or online at ubrakewheelfix.com. You can also find them on Google, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Yelp. Again, that's at U-Brake Wheel Fix. The phone number, 305-748-0112. Mention 5 Reasons. Here's the key point. You get 15% off anything. That's right, anything you do with them at U-Brake Wheel Fix. And now, today's episode.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5
on the floor.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick with Alex Toledo and Greg Sylvander, part of the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Welcome back to 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Today's floor plan, it's pretty simple. We've got the coach. As everybody said, yeah, baby. So let's get right to it. Tony Fiorentino joining myself and Royal Shepherd filling in as a host today. You can catch some of his stuff on our YouTube channel, including the new show Clutch Corner with Adam Barai. Had Chef Trilly on this week, so that was some cool stuff. That's going to be going on every Tuesday night on our YouTube channel. We're now close to 10,000 subscribers, so make sure you check that out. Tony, I want to start here with you. You are out in the community. That is a large part of your role here with the Miami Heat now. But as we know, the community, that's changed with everything that's going on with COVID. How have you been able to still kind of interact with people? What do you have planned? How has that changed your role?
Yeah, it's unfortunate because we have combined with Bridget, a company out of New York, where we were going to hit 2 to 3 schools a week starting in August of the school year. And because of the pandemic, we weren't able to go into any school, obviously, and still not able to. We've done some Zoom meetings with the kids. It's an anti-bullying campaign that I started when they moved me from announcing to the community. And it's had a big impact where we talk about kindness, and it feeds right into the pandemic, actually, about doing kind deeds and making people smile. And we make it a contest to see how many in that school can send out kind thoughts, kind suggestions to their classmates, to their teachers. And the winners of this within the school, and maybe the school winners themselves, competing against other schools, we're going to find ways to reward them. So, I was a teacher for 15 years, a high school teacher in New York, and I know firsthand what bullying is about. So it's something that's is not going as strong as we'd like it to right now because of the pandemic, but we have a feeling it's going to start to pick up in January as the schools get their stuff together about how they want to handle in classroom classes, not just on Zoom and outlets like that. And so hopefully it'll start picking up again. And then we have Junior Heat, which is what the anti-bullying program is part of. Julian Sanchez, Santi Echeverria do a great job with that. We're going to start doing some Zoom clinics. We're going to be offering clinics to local coaches on different levels. Sometimes you have parents whose son is now a player, 7, 8, 9 years old, and they start coaching. They're really not coaches, but they're volunteering their time. So we can do some clinics for them, and then we can do some for the coaches who are established, middle school, high school, even college coaches. So that's in the works, and it may start actually next week. And so we're excited about that, Ethan.
This is a complicated time for kids, obviously. I mean, they're adjusting to not being able to socialize. A lot of them, my daughter's in school, but I know a lot of kids are not in school right now. How has that kind of impacted your job? Because, I mean, in terms of what you do out in the community, because I got to think there's a lot of anxiety with kids right now. And I mean, if it's scary for adults, it's got to be scary for children.
Yeah, no doubt. Even though the message is the same, you change it a little bit because of the anxiety. Not being able to socialize with classmates. Most kids are like that today. They're doing a lot of stuff on the internet, classes on the internet. And it's just a very scary time. As you said, it's scary for us adults. You can imagine the kids. And so you've got to reassure them that we're all in this together, that it brings you closer, actually, with doing kind deeds and being nice to each other, because we have to all pull through together. And so it does lend itself to the program that we're trying to promote.
So, Coach, I wanted to ask, what's been the most rewarding part about being able to do this work virtually? I mean, I know it's tough without being able to have face-to-face interaction with the kids, but I mean, this work can still be rewarding. So what's been the most rewarding thing for you personally?
Well, it's great when we get on Zoom and we have all the kids on that can be on it, and they're excited. And they have a lot of questions, and they like the fact that we're giving them the attention that they're not getting in the classroom. And so they have a bunch of questions. It's easier being with the Heat, especially coming off this great successful season they had last few months ago, getting within 2 wins of an NBA championship again. And that excitement carries over into the Zooms and into the meetings. And it makes it a lot easier to relate to the kids. And one of the easiest things I have to do is just relate a lot of what the Heat players do and make them examples for the kids. And it's very easy to do. The leadership of a Udonis Haslem and the leadership of a Bam, the unselfishness of a Butler and the different players on the team, the way they just play for each other and nobody cares how many points they score. All of the intangibles that you try to teach kids are inherent in the Heat team with their culture. So we promote a lot of the Heat culture through our Zoom meetings with the kids, along with kind deeds and trying to just allay their fears and anxieties, or lessen them at least. And they do feel better about themselves after the meeting because we were able to show them the attention they deserve.
Tony, you mentioned what just happened in the bubble, and I think a lot of us expected the Heat to compete well in the bubble because it was going to lend itself to the good organizations with structure, with leadership, with quality coaching, and the Heat had all of that. And so I think we felt that they would overachieve from what the national perception was. I don't know that we necessarily thought that they would get to the finals and be 2 wins from a championship and maybe even have pulled the thing off if they'd been entirely healthy at the end. Just observing it. And then I want to get to some historical stuff with you and where this team kind of fits. But just observing it, what jumped out the most to you? What are the moments from this run that you're going to most remember?
Well, I think the mental toughness. You got to have mental toughness. Sometimes individually and team-wise, you may say, woe is us, look what we're in. I can't be with my family the first couple of months in there. It's an unusual situation, but the Heat did a great job of compartmentalizing themselves, where they said, look, this is what it is. It's going to be this way. There's no sense getting down about it. Let's rally around ourselves and rely on each other. And I think what you saw was the Heat culture at its apex. And sometimes people are not totally accepting that there is a Heat culture, because other teams are good as well and have good programs. But I think the greatest example of how good the Heat culture is when players come from other teams and are lauding the Heat culture. You got players that have come from Boston, and players came from Golden State, two very solid organizations, who say it's just a little different here with the Heat culture. And so when you have players that come from elsewhere, and they can then talk about that to the younger players, and you have a leader like Jimmy Butler on the court, and Udonis Haslem as a quote player coach, and then you have the great coaching of Eric Spoelstra. It's nice to see him starting to get some recognition. You know, when I was on the air with Eric for years, I always extolled his qualities as a coach and as a person. People just thought I might be saying that because he and I are very good friends, and I was announcing for the Heat. But they're starting to see what I was talking about all those years. He's a very special person, very special coach. Pat Riley and Mickey and Nick Harrison have done an unbelievable job as leaders of this team from the top. And then Coach Spoelstra takes it, creates the culture. And you saw the benefit of all of that in the bubble, where they were able to go 12-3 against Indiana, Milwaukee, and Boston to get to the NBA Finals. And as you said, Ethan, who knows what would have happened if Bam didn't get hurt and Dragic didn't get hurt. You know, it's part of the game. The injuries are part of the game. But you got to wonder what it would have been like if they had been healthy, and maybe the result would have been different.
We'll get back to our episode here in a second, but first I want to tell you about one of our longest standing sponsors. They're one of the sponsors that helped us get going at the beginning and has helped keep us going. Definitely give them a call. The good people over at Seltzer Mayberg. It's a law firm in North Miami, right off I-95, right around 107th. Again, right off 95. Beautiful new building there. You can reach them 24/7 at onecalllegal.com. That's ONE calllegal.com. So reach out to them. They handle all kinds of different cases, but particularly if you've had a car accident or you've had a traffic ticket. They've helped me a couple times with traffic tickets, I must say. Got them tossed out. Again, onecalllegal.com. That's where you go. Check them out. Then you ask for either Eric or Mendy or David or Cassandra. They're just great people down there over at the Seltzer Mayberg Law Firm. So again, it's onecalllegal.com. Seltzer Mayberg Law Firm. And now back to the episode.
Coach, I kind of want to stick to the bubble. You've been around, I know for the entire time that I've been a fan, you've been around this organization longer than most, so you've seen quite a bit. I want you to kind of tell me, where would you rank that Bam block on Jason Tatum?
Oh.
The all-time plays that you've seen during your time with the Heat.
I'll tell you what, Royal, I'm proud of the fact that I'm one of 6 Heat employees that have been there this is our 33rd year. You know, I came on that original coaching staff, and I've worn many hats. I'm wearing a different one now, so to speak. But I think that's the greatest block in the history of the franchise, because that's a game-winning basket that would have, given Boston the win. Where I know people like to compare it to the block that Chris Bosh had in overtime in Game 6 against Danny Green in that right corner in front of the San Antonio's bench. After, Ray Allen made the 3, we stopped him in regulation. And then in overtime, we were up 3, and then Chris Bosh made that block. So I think the greatest blocks in the history of the franchise was the block with Bam with his left hand, kept it inbounds, grabbed it. I used to like to talk about how the great shot blockers like Alonzo Mourning kept the ball in bounds after they blocked it. Not only did Bam block it, but he caught it and then got fouled. And so that and the block by Chris Bosh in that corner against Danny Green, who was trying to tie it in overtime to send the series to Game 7 in 13, which we won, which I'm wearing the ring, back-to-back championship ring. I wouldn't have this on right now, maybe if Chris didn't make that block. So it's I think those are the 2 biggest blocks, Royal.
All right, and to that point, we got to rank something else, because we just saw one of the great finals performances, I think, in history. What Jimmy Butler did in those 2 games, where he had sort of a miraculous performance and then somehow topped it 2 games later. And just at that point, I think anybody would have run out of gas. I ranked it as one of the 3 greatest performances in Heat history, in terms of that a playoff stage. To me, Dwayne against Dallas, particularly the Game 3 performance, down 0-2. LeBron in Boston, the 45 points in Boston, backs against the wall, probably going to break up the Big 3 era if you lose that game. And really, he's the one guy who, at least offensively, came to play that game. And everybody always remembers kind of the snarl and everything else. And then Jimmy's 2 in the finals. I know this is almost impossible. Put them in order.
Yeah, it is. People started to talk about what Jimmy was doing, comparing to what Dwayne Wade did. Dwayne, just to set it up for people that may not remember, the Heat were down 0-2 to Dallas. And they came home to play 3 games. And in fact, when Eric Reed and I were doing a post-game show on Fox, when people were walking out, we were up a little bit on the platform. And so the people were eye level to us. They were yelling, sweep, sweep. And they were right. We swept them the next 4 games. But when we came home for that Game 3, we were down 13 with 6.5 minutes left. Dwayne Wade came out of the timeout and says, we're not going out like this. And what people may forget is that the Heat were up 1 when Dirk Nowitzki took the ball out in front of the Heat bench and threw a lob at the rim. Dwayne Wade's man set a back screen. Dwayne did not go up with his man. He stayed home at the rim and knocked the pass away. Dallas may have won that game at the buzzer if Dwayne didn't knock that ball away. Not only did he have over 40 points, but he did that great play. And then the Heat won the next 2 and then went to Dallas in Game 6, down double figures in that first quarter, and won the first series. And Dwayne, obviously, some people voted that as the greatest finals in the history of the NBA at that point. And I think Jimmy Butler's performance can rival that. It's a matter of, it's a subjective decision on what you might think, but I think it rivals it. And then you brought up the one with LeBron. The Heat won the first 2 games in the Eastern Finals in 12, and then they lost the next 2 in Boston. Came home for Game 5. That was a series where Chris Bosh was still out with that pulled muscle in his rib cage. He got hurt in the Indiana series in the semis of the East, and so he wasn't playing until Game 5. And the Heat lost that game to Boston. Then they had to go to Boston in a place where they very rarely won. And LeBron had an unbelievable game with the eyes, and he went 45, 15, and 5. He was unbelievable in that game. And then they came home and won Game 7 with Chris Bosh scoring 3 threes, and then went on and beat Oklahoma City. So I think you nailed it, Ethan. Those 3, I would, I don't know how you would rank the 3 of them. For me, the most fun one was the first one with Dwayne, doing what he did. That got us the first championship. But you can make an argument that the other 2 are right up there with it.
All right, so give me the rest of the names. You mentioned one of 6. I think I know the names, Tony. The 6 originals that are left. I know Jose is one of them. Give me the other 4. Who are the 6? The 6 originals.
Jose Pineda is the Spanish announcer. Eric Reed, my partner. For years, we said on the air, we were proud of the fact we were the only announcing duo in the NBA that had been with the team since its inception, which was great for the fans, because anything that came up in the conversation, you never know what's going to come up in a game. Could have been year 1, 8, 15, 20, 25. It didn't matter. I was there as a coach originally, and then in a broadcaster. Eric was there from the beginning, and we always had a story to tell because we were there and we experienced it. So you got 2. You got Andy Ellisberg, the cap guru of the NBA. You got Sam Schulman. He's been the CFO, Chief Financial Officer of the Heat since day 1. And Jeff Craney. We call Jeff Craney number 1 because he was the first person hired by Chaffel and Cunningham when this franchise started, really in 1987, the year before 1988, when we officially got the team. He was there. He was number 1, and he works in the marketing department. He's right under Michael McCullough. And he's a good friend, and he's one of the people I work with now with the Junior Heat and the anti-bullying campaign. So those are the 6. You got Coach Rothstein, who was there originally and then came back. And Bill Ferran, you can say he was there from the beginning with an asterisk, because our first year, we worked out at the UM's gym, the night gym. And Bill was the strength coach there. And I believe he was the national strength coach of the year for the football team the year before in 87. So when we got there in 88 and started practicing, he would come into the weight room and help our guys with weights. And then Ron Rothstein went to Louis Chaffel and Billy Cunningham and said, we need to hire a strength and conditioning coach, which was not common at that time in 1989. And so Bill was hired the second year of the franchise officially, and he's still part of it, with his son being the official strength coach now, Eric. But he was there really from the beginning as well.
All right. One of the reasons I'm asking is the first person on Twitter who can tweet at me at 5 Reasons Sports, the 6 originals, we're sending you a shirt. Okay. So I hope you were listening to Tony there. I hope you were listening to, well, we need to get some Yeah Baby shirts on the site, but that's a separate conversation that you and I'll have. All right.
Yeah, so I got that tweet.
I know. I see your tweets. I know. I see your tweets. We're going to get to this year's team in a second, but I want to stay historical here with a moment. Just have some fun with this kind of rapid fire. First guy that comes to your head, okay? Most underrated player in Heat history. You can only have one. Most underrated player.
Wow, that's tough. Wow. I don't know if UD can be considered underrated because what he started for the 06 team, came off the bench for the 12 and 13 championship team, and doesn't play a whole lot, but he leads and does so much by example that people may have underrated his impact on this franchise over 18 years. The only guy in the history of the NBA is 70 years old, started in 1946, 74 years old. He's the only guy in the history of the NBA to be undrafted, play with one team for 18 years, and be its all-time leading rebounder. So I would say him. Lamar Odom had a great 1 year for the Heat. After there was some criticism on why the Heat would sign him like they did, he was 13 man on a 12-man Eastern All-Star team. He had a great 1 year with the Heat. And because of that 1 year that he had, the Heat were able to trade him and Karan and a few other guys to get Shaq, which led to a championship. So I think people may have forgotten that the first Udonis Haslem was Grant Long. I never saw Grant Long in all the practices and all the games, all the shoot-arounds. He never not played hard, Grant Long. And UD sometimes gives Grant a lot of credit because UD grew up watching Grant Long play and kind of emulated his game after Grant Long. And so I think those three guys kind of come to mind a little bit.
So, Coach, I wanted to ask you, what is like one of the biggest what-if scenarios of your team? Like, what if this player we had been able to get this player, or what if we hadn't been able to get or lose this player or something like that? Like, what's one of
the biggest what if in our franchise history is when Allen Houston made that shot. We were tied 2-2 in the 5-game series, and the winner of that series was going to play the winner of Atlanta-Detroit. And I had scouted Detroit. Jeff Bosdelic, the other assistant, was scouted Atlanta, and we were ready to stay up all night. It was a Sunday. We were going to stay up all night and help the other guy with the pick, because that night Atlanta played Detroit. And we were 4-0 against Atlanta that year. They won that series. We would have probably been in the Eastern Finals, I believe, against Indiana, I think it was that year. So we had a great shot to get to the finals if Allen Houston didn't make that shot. And I remember we were up 1. The ball was going down the other end with Tim, and there was another guard there. And the ball was knocked loose, and it came all the way toward our bench, and it was off us, and we couldn't run it down. So there was kind of like 4 seconds left. And then we know what happened on that play. Houston went around a screen. Marley came around behind him, and Allen Houston took the shot. It hit the rim, the backboard, the rim, and went in. And we lost by 1. And the season was over. We never imagined that we would lose. So to me, that's the biggest what if.
All right, this may be the toughest question I'm throwing at you, because there's a long history of great Heat shooters, and of course, one guy made the biggest shot arguably in NBA history in the finals. But I also know you're partial to a guy that you coached, and there have been some other great shooters who have come since. So I'll tell you this: you've got one shot. Your life is depending on one shot, okay, one 3-point shot from any Heat player in history. Who's getting the ball?
Well, I'd have to go with Ray Allen. I love Duncan Robinson, but, he's got a long way to go in his career. Ray Allen is a Hall of Famer, did it for, 15, 16, whatever years he played, and maybe more than that. And the most amazing thing about Ray Allen's shot is that when it was all said and done, he made the three, tied the game. It was all net. We win the series eventually, back to back. All right. He wound up telling Coach Spoelstra that he had practiced that shot. Now, how do you practice that shot? When the way he practiced it, he said that, his workouts were legendary. I used to get there early, 3:30 on game day to watch him go a half hour, sweat. He probably went up and took a shower before the game to get ready for the game. But he would do everything game oriented. And what he did was, one of the plays that he did, one of the situations he created for himself, he sit in the lane facing the basket. And picture him on the broken line, facing the basket, sitting down. He would jump up and backpedal to the 3-point line and have a coach throw him the ball. I mean, who works on that? And who knew that was going to be the most iconic shot in the history of the Miami Heat, one of the greatest and iconic shots in the history of the NBA playoffs. And he was prepared for that. You know how difficult that shot was, to backpedal, to be in a position not to be stepping on the 3-point line, not to be out of bounds because there's not much room in that right corner, and to catch the ball in one motion, go straight up, don't fade back, all in one rhythm. And then he basically shot with his shot didn't have the arc that a lot of people had. He basically shot with a line drive. That shot had an arc, and it was all net. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable story. I would go with Ray Allen.
It's funny. I talked to him. I was in the Bahamas the next year for training camp in Atlantis, and I talked to him just about that. Just wrote a whole column about sort of the aftermath of the shot. And he basically said it best. He said, that was my career in one play.
Yeah.
He's like, basically everything that I'd worked towards my entire career, the preparation, everything to be in that position at that moment. But I will say this, look, that is the obvious answer. And I thought you'd go with it. Should I send this to Glenn Rice? Because I thought you might go a little bit back further in your history.
Yeah, G Money's my man. I love
I know. I don't know how he's going to feel about that.
Yeah, well, in fact, I just texted him yesterday because we play golf together, and we also work together in the camps when we have them. And he also helps with the anti-bullying campaign. So I'm very close to Glenn. He's one of the first guys I worked with when I was an assistant coach. And the great Glenn Rice story was when he came for a workout before the draft. We had the 4th pick in the draft. If we had the number 1 pick, we would have taken him. And we were hoping that he was available with the 4th pick. That's another story in itself. But when we were in the night gym working him out, he was walking off the court to go to the locker room. He must have been 4 feet out of bounds on the left baseline. I'll never forget this. And somebody threw him the ball, and he shot a swish. It had to be like 30-something feet, and he walked into the locker room. You talk about the rest of us standing there with our mouth open. But you make a pretty good point there, Ethan. I'm going to have to soft pedal this.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You're up, Royal. Last one.
While you guys are partial to shooting, I'm more partial to dunks and highlight plays. I wanted to ask you about who is the best pure athlete that you've seen come through the Miami Heat organization.
We've had a few, boy. First one you go back would be Bimbo Coles. Bimbo wasn't really a basketball player when he came out of Virginia Tech. He was a great athlete. I think Bimbo could have played, may have been able to play baseball. He definitely could have played pro football, and he made himself into a basketball player. So he was a great athlete. LeBron, I'd have to say LeBron is the greatest athlete to ever come through. The guy is a freak of nature. Came to play every night. The most intimidating thing that LeBron did was we're sitting there getting ready for the game to start. Okay. Courtside, Eric and I, and the first thing you see before the buzzer sounds for the team to come out, there's LeBron sprinting out to the circle, on the side of the circle where he would always position himself, and the other team would be coming out, and there's LeBron standing there already. That's intimidating. So to me, he's the best athlete in the history of the Miami Heat.
All right, so we're going with LeBron and we're going with Ray Allen, and you'll have to make it up to Glenn Rice at some point. All right, well, a word from one of our sponsors, and then we're going to get to the current team.
Okay.
We'll get back to our episode here in a second. Before we do, I want to tell you about another of the great sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. You know, Knicks are no good in the NBA. You're familiar with that? The Knicks are no good. Well, Knicks are no good when you're shaving certain parts of your body either. So that's why Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. The Manscaped engineering team spent 18 months perfecting the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created. I never thought I would actually say that on a podcast. And just released the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0. Their 3rd generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to advanced skin-safe technology pioneered by Manscaped. When I tell you this is premium, I mean premium. The battery will last up to 90 minutes, so you can take a longer shave. The waterproof technology allows you to groom in the shower. One of the coolest features is the LED light, which illuminates grooming areas for a closer and more precise trimming. And let's not forget about the charging stand. Show your mower off loud and proud, because this intelligently designed stand is a convenient charging dock powered by USB. If you're listening to me speak right now, I want you to experience it firsthand for yourself. Make sure you trim yourself. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code 5RSN at manscaped.com. And now this is where I end my career. Your balls will thank you. And now back to the episode. All right, right back here on 5 on the Floor. All right, Tony, so we're looking ahead to this most strangest of seasons. It's going to come up, I guess, second strangest season after the one that was just completed. It's going to be different. Obviously, you got teams that are coming in to play 2 games instead of 1 game. You got the travel back, but no fans, at least for the beginning of the year. But there are high expectations for this team. So I just want to give you some players here. Royal and I give you some players. And I want to ask you kind of what you want to see in terms of the next stage of their development, because we've seen so many of these players develop here in the Heat program. And I'll start here with Bam Adebayo. If he could, he's already taken huge steps. All-star in his 3rd season. He's getting recognized now as a top 15 player in the NBA by ESPN and some of these other services. What do you want to see next from Bam?
Well, I think when you think about Bam, think about Game 6 against Boston. That's clearly and easily the best game of his career. He was unbelievable. That was a Hall of Fame performance to me in Game 6 when the Heat won the series 4-2. And so if he can play that back, put that in the machine and just look at that all the time and try to aspire to be as that good in all aspects of his game. I think, I've seen him shoot before games, and the last thing he does, he goes to the corners and shoots threes. I think he's going to expand his game. He's gotten very aggressive, very assertive with the ball. He wasn't like that the first couple of years. It came last year. As the year progressed, he got more and more assertive, more and more confident of going to the rim. I think if you ask him, he wants to be a more consistent foul shooter. I think he wants to be better at that. He's great at handling the ball and setting up the offense for coach, as a 6'9" facilitator, if you will. But I think a more consistent jump shot where you go from 15 to 17, maybe to 18, 19, and then eventually out to the 3-point line. I think once he adds a little distance on his jumper, he's going to be very difficult to guard, because people got to come out and guard him out there. He can go around them both right and left. And we know he's an outstanding passer. I had a great story about him. He had 2 games in a row where he had double-figure assists. And it was a home game where he had the second game. And I said to him after the game, I said, you had a great 2 games. I said, you're the second best big man passer in the NBA. And he looked at me strangely. He goes, who's number 1? I said, Jokic, Denver. He goes, he didn't say anything. So the next game I see his mom, and I tell her the story about the conversation I had with her son about him being the second best big man shooter. She goes, Jokic. She acknowledged it without me even saying it. So she knew. So he deals in reality. He's got a mom who deals in reality.
No, she gives him reality, Tony. I think that's a big part of it.
He keeps his head level. Let me tell you, man, she's a tough lady and she's a great lady. Really cool to talk to. Gets upset at certain things, like a mom would, but she's there, boy. She's his rock. And so I think when he expands his outside shooting and improves his free throw shooting, then he'll be more inclined to get fouled more too.
Coach, another young player that everybody seems to be pretty excited about is Tyler Herro. What do you see as the next steps in his development? We know he had the double-digit scoring streak in the bubble, as well as having a few big games, but what is the next step in his progression?
Well, I think we saw in the playoffs, I think what happens with a young player who's as talented as he is trying to corral that energy. And there are times when he gets a little careless with the dribble, especially in transition, in traffic. And so I think, and he tends to be a little more erect with the dribble, though he was in the bubble. And obviously the Heat are the best, I think, the best in the NBA at teaching and improving players on parts of their game. And I'm sure that's part of what they're looking at with him, where his next step to becoming a quote point guard is to get that dribble a little lower, to be a little more conscious in traffic and not lose the ball like he did sometimes. But 20-year-old rookie, you expect that. I think the other part of it is he's going to improve as a defensive player. He is 6'5", and when he's playing smaller players, you got to get more in that defensive stance. But those are all the things, you're nitpicking when you talk about those two things with him, because he had probably the best rookie finals than anybody in history. You're going back to Magic Johnson, they were comparing him to with numbers. And we know that he's not afraid of anything. We know that he's very assertive, a little cocky, which is fine if you can back it up. And that's part of the attraction of a Tyler Herro, that he can make and take and make the big shot when you need him to. And he's not afraid of the big moment.
All right, last one here before we close. I'm curious for your view on this one, because Duncan Robinson to the rest of the NBA world just came out of nowhere. Eric Spoelstra was calling him one of the best shooters on the planet before last season. We weren't even sure if he was going to be in the rotation. And then he ended up having one of the best shooting seasons we've ever seen. But my question with someone like Duncan Robinson, we know he can shoot. I mean, obviously. I mean, he's, and you're in the 40s from 3 on 11 attempts a game. You can shoot. How does he make himself viable enough as a defender, or get the respect from the officials enough that he can play those minutes at the end of the game where he wasn't really in some of those crunch time lineups as we got deeper into the playoffs?
Well, he's 6'8", and they have him listed as a guard. And so he winds up guarding a guard. He winds up guarding a shooting guard. And some of those guys are not as tall as him, so they're going to be a little quicker, a little faster. The Heat switch a lot. And so he's going to find himself on some bigger guys, smaller guys. It's all a progression. When you look at guys like him, and you look at guys like Goran Dragic, who wasn't known as a defender, still not known as a defender, but you can see them really working at it. The way they get down in their defensive stance, and they really hustle over the screens, and they dive when their man tries to go to the basket, and they're in the position to steal the ball or whatever. They're really working hard at that. And they're in a perfect situation with the Heat, because that's what the Heat stresses. When you're a defense-oriented team, it's something that you have to stress almost every day. I did it as a high school coach when I was a high school coach. If we're going to be a defense-oriented team, then you got to, I don't care if you work on it 10 minutes a day, you're working on it because the mentality is there. And I see Duncan Robinson as a much improved defensive player. I saw him last season in the bubble than I did the first year he was with the Heat. And he's going to continue to improve with that. And as he becomes more familiar with the players in the league, the more experience he gets, he's going to be more familiar with the moves that they're trying to make on him. And the practice that he gets every day with the Heat coaches, he's going to improve. He's working hard to improve. And I think the respect from the officials will come. That's something that you have to earn in the NBA. And once they see you working hard and eventually, doing a better job defensively, he'll earn the refs' respect, and that will kind of work itself out.
All right, Tony, we appreciate you taking this much time with us. Again, you can always follow Tony on Twitter. He's a great follow, but also on his website. What you got going on there?
Yeah, notjustbasketball.com. It's all one word, notjustbasketball.com. I've got 35 tips on there. I've got quotes. I've got funny quotes. I've got tips for young players and coaches. I must have about 25, 30 pictures in there of, different situations with Dwayne Wade and LeBron and different people. It's an exciting to me, it's an exciting website that it got me through the pandemic, to be honest. I worked on it every day with editing and all of that. And it got it to the point where I'm going to start tweeting it a little bit. I've even got an anti-bullying section that you can go to for anybody that's, wants to try an anti-bullying program. So there's a lot there. And I encourage people to go to notjustbasketball.com. Thanks, Ethan.
No problem. Notjustbasketball.com. We'll promote it from our place. I will say before we go, you got to do one thing, because I'm looking at that great portrait of you and Ronnie behind you, Ronnie with hair. But you got to give me this. You got to give me this for people. I'm a terrible photo editor, as everybody tells me. You got to flash the ring one more time.
Oh yeah,
flash the ring. Flash the ring. There we. Oh, there you go. There you go.
Wait a minute. It looks like it's upside down.
Yeah, it was right? No. Now it's upside down.
Oh, okay. I got it.
There you go. Now I see it. I got it.
Yeah, it's got 2 trophies there. We've got 3 of them. I like to wear this one because people like to take pictures with it.
I like it. That's the best one I got. T, I appreciate it. Thanks, Coach. And give me one yeah, baby on the way out.
Ethan Royal, it's been a pleasure. And yeah, baby, let's get the season started.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Regional Sports Network.